And now, making their way into the arena, hailing from the great pro wrestling state of Massachusetts, they are the hosts of the Top of the Cage podcast. Here are Bill and Juice.
And thank you again, Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, always making us sound so good. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the super producer. I am Bill, joined always by my tag team partner, my wrestling confidant. He is the future booking genius and the prince of pro wrestling podcasts. He is Justin Juice Cannon. Boom, baby. Juice, one of the things that NXT does as we approach Wrestlemania season is the Stand and Deliver premium live event, formerly known as pay-per-views. I know you wanted to take some time on the podcast today to talk about the build to it. And I like in the notes you put, you probably haven't been following NXT so much. And that's true. I only really know of the main event. Really, honestly. I'm trying to think if I know any others. I feel like the women's match might be like rattling around in my brain a little bit, but I don't actually know. So take it away.
All right, well, let's start with the non-title match, which you might know. I might jog your memory here. Johnny Gargano versus Grayson Waller.
Yes, I did see the was it like the Gargano compound or whatever it was?
The Gargano house one?
Yeah.
With Candace holding the child, and people were like getting on her for bad acting. They're like, what bad acting? I'm like, well, she doesn't want to scare her actual baby that she's holding, so she's not gonna start screaming and like cause a panic that it's a less than 1 year old. I don't know, people are stupid. I really like the build to it, like Gargano off NXT and TV before he took his little lapse from wrestling and left WWE to explore things, even though he never ended up being Johnny Independent Wrestling, but it was gonna happen. But how they wrote him off was Grayson Waller attacked him brutally. So I love that they circled back to it. I was hoping that was where this Shawn Michaels Grayson Waller feud was going, because I felt like they weren't going to have, if Shawn Michaels is going to wrestle again, I don't think it's going to be Stand and Deliver. I know he's in charge of NXT, but if he's going to come back, it's going to come back at WrestleMania like Stone Cold. I mean, Mr. WrestleMania, which we'll get to later. I think it's that match is going to steal the show. And it's looking like an impressive show. I'll just run down the card. Main event, Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Breaker. Banger. Have my boy Melo beat the shit out of Braun. Braun's reign was great, but Melo don't miss. Ladder match for NXT Women's title because of the Roxy thing, which part of me thinks that Roxy's just going to be in the match.
Yeah, it's very strange. I really hate angles like that. And I think we did touch that on the podcast, if it was last week or the week before. I hate angles that do this shit, especially after, and I think this is the point I made after the DeMar Hamlin stuff. It just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I just really don't like when we do injury angles like this, especially with somebody collapsing. But
yeah, no, it was in poor taste, and no, I don't like it. I mean, I'll see where it goes, but I don't think that was the way to do it. If that's how they're writing her off and to move her to the main roster, I don't like that. They could have done it a lot differently if they wanted to take the title offer. But we'll see. I do like two people in the match so far, Zoe Stark and Gigi. I really hope Zoe Stark wins. I think in the ring, magic. She's one of the most talented women in the ring WWE has. Off the ring, I think she's underrated. I think a lot of people, that's the knock on her, is that they're like, her mic skills aren't there. I'm like, honestly, there's a lot of people on the main roster that she's better than. Like when she did her first heel promo and she turned heel and is directed to Nikita, I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. I think she can go in both aspects. I don't think she's perfect on the mic, but I do think there's a lot of people, as I just said, a lot of people in the main roster, not just NXT, that she can talk circles around. So I think she's pretty complete. And I think NXT women's title, she's more than deserving. I was really hoping she was going to be the one to take it off Mandy, but that didn't happen. Even though I love Roxy. Don't get me wrong about that. Gigi, I love Gigi. I think Gigi's great. I am on the camp of Gigi over JC. JC's great, but it's a split camp. But I'm on team Gigi. Curious who the next two people round out the ladder match for the NXT Women's title will be. Another match is Fatal 5-Way match for the NXT North American title. I kind of got confused at first. I thought this was the ladder match. It's kind of like it's becoming a tradition, but it's just a Fatal 5-Way match. We don't know who the 4 opponents that will be facing Wesley are yet. I feel like Axiom has to be one since he didn't get his open challenge. Tony D probably. Well, actually, no, because it looks like Tony D is going for the tag title. So strike that. I think Dijak should be in the match. Maybe Apollo and Babatunde. That's how they'll do their I forget which name. One of his 5 names he's going by. I think Dabakato.
I think it is Dabakato.
Yeah, I think he's Dabakato. But yeah, maybe they'll since to have them both on the card, they'll add them to the match. But we'll see. I think Axiom's a lock. We'll see who the other 3 are.
And the whole gimmick of that is that Wesley is picking his opponents, right?
Yeah. So definitely like people. I mean, he wants to challenge, and Axiom, he is, was falling around trying to work hard to get that match. So Axiom's definitely one. Maybe Styx, because Styx ruined the match. Well, it was a whole brawl. Like there were like 50, there were like 20 of them ringside. So who knows? The next match, NXT Women's Tag Team Titles match, Isla Dawn and Alba Fire versus Fallon Henley and Keon James. We all know who's gonna win. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire aren't gonna lose. Alba Fire can't keep losing big matches. Like, I'm sorry, they're winning. Since the Fallon Henley and Keon James, it's not really about the wrestling, it's more about the storyline, like the dating story, which I don't mind. I know a lot of people trash it, but I like the fun, goofy stories. It reminds me of my childhood wrestling stories. I don't mind dating centric wrestling stories. Sorry, I'm a romantic too, man. I don't know. And then yeah, that's it, because the last one in this little thing is Johnny Gargano versus Grayson Waller, which we already talked about.
Actually, though, I will say that card is a little bit more impressive than I knew it was. And as somebody that was pleasantly surprised by the last NXT Premium Live event, I think I'm going to more actively seek out Stand and Deliver to watch it. I think that NXT is starting to become good again. I think that they dropped 2.0, and I think it shows the difference between actual NXT and NXT 2.0. 2.0 was a stupid idea. Whether that was a Triple H or Vince McMahon or whoever it was, original decision, I'm happy that we're back to NXT. I think that the programming is getting good again. I think that the superstars are getting good again. And I am excited to see how Stand and Deliver delivers, because I do believe that it will be good. I am a little upset, though, that we aren't getting Shawn Michaels in the match, because I did know a little bit about the build towards the Gargano Waller stuff, but I was kind of hoping that it was going to be Michaels.
That would have been cool, but I think I'd rather see Gargano versus Waller than Waller versus Michaels. So I think it worked out for the best. Plus, I don't want Michaels to be tarnished in any way. His
he's already
like
tarnished
if he had a
it, man.
bad
Let's
match,
be honest, he's already tarnished it in terms of like
I don't
tarnished it in
tarnished
terms
his
of like the
legacy.
match that he came back. That match was garbage.
Yeah,
that was 4 old men who shouldn't have been wrestling in a wrestling match.
Yeah, but maybe that's what he's thinking. Like he's like, I gotta just not wrestle, and that's why I can't do it. But we'll see. But I mean, he's not wrestling now, so he's not wrestling a Stand and Deliver. If we get a Shawn Michaels match, it's not anytime soon.
And speaking of Shawn Michaels, Juice, he is commonly referred to as Mr. WrestleMania. But one thing we don't really hear a lot when we discuss the WrestleMania season coming up is who is Miss WrestleMania? Now, technically, there has been a Miss WrestleMania crown before, but that was technically also a man. And that was Santina Marella. For those of you who have the unfortunate memory to remember that. I am one of those people. I remember watching that live, actually. And I remember thinking it was funny because I was like a 12-year-old kid. And I was like, haha, guy dressed as a woman wins a women's match. That's hilarious. But now I'm 26 and I'm like, that was really fucking stupid. That could have been a really great spot to push a woman's talent. But that's WWE back in the 2010s, man. But keeping on topic of the original question here, I'm curious, Juice, who do you consider Miss WrestleMania?
I think I'm going to go with Becky. I'm going to go Becky Lynch. Originally, I was thinking Trish Stratus, but I'm going to go more recent. I think Becky's done enough that it's her. It's tough. I mean, Charlotte, I think, is up there too. But I think the matches Becky has had are going to stand the test of time. And I also think just her impact, like she's the first woman in the main event of WrestleMania. Well, one of three. And then she's also she's the one who won the match and unified the women's belts in the main event. First to do that. Did I like the match? Not really. But is it still a huge match and still is it still, her making history? Yeah. And was she the reason I didn't like match? No. If anything, I thought she did the best of the three. And she definitely, when the lights shine on her, she shines bright. She doesn't falter. She doesn't hesitate. She's a star. She's one of the greatest women's wrestlers. And I think I miss WrestleMania.
I think that's totally fair too. Just in terms of appearances she's had, she actually is not the woman that's had the most appearances. She's tied for second. It looks like I'm looking at the list right now of the top 12 women considered top 12 at least. Are you curious to hear this top 12, Juice? And let's run through some records here, because the person who is at the top of this list is who I would consider Miss WrestleMania. So tied for 12th and 11th is both Naomi and Becky Lynch. Their records at WrestleMania are both 2 and 3. Above them is Nia Jax, coming in at a solid 2 and 2. And then we have Tori Wilson, Melina, and Bayley, all coming in at 2 and 1. And then we get 3 undefeated women at 2 and 0, and that is Chyna, AJ Lee, and someone I think is very interesting, and I think might be an interesting story to follow in the next few years, is Bianca Belair, who is currently undefeated at WrestleMania, 2 and 0. And then we move up to your girl that you mentioned, Trish Stratus. She is 3 and 2 at WrestleMania. Surprisingly, Sable is 3 and 0 at WrestleMania. And then the person who I consider to be Miss WrestleMania is someone who is 4 and 2 at the event, and she is Charlotte Flair. I just think when I think WrestleMania for a woman, I just think Charlotte. She's always in the sniffing of a title picture when it comes to WrestleMania. She is dominant. She's comes in or leaves as champion almost always. And the matches that she's had at WrestleMania against these other women like Becky, like Sasha, I think her match coming up with Rhea, the second, is going to be phenomenal. I thought the first one was pretty good for what it was, but I think the second one is going to be really, really good now that Rhea has really come into her own and isn't going to be the person who's losing the NXT Women's Championship to the person that won the Royal Rumble. She's going to be the person that won the Royal Rumble and win the world title, hopefully, at least, because listen, Charlotte gets booked very strangely. She just comes in, gets championships, and leaves. And that's kind of Rhea's whole point right now is like, yo, Charlotte, what the fuck, bro? You just come take championships, take my spotlight. So I hope that at least we see both Bianca and Rhea reigning as champions coming out of WrestleMania this year. But that doesn't deny the fact that after this year, Charlotte Flair is going to have 7 appearances at WrestleMania, the most of any woman superstar. And you can't deny the fact. And granted, Shawn Michaels' record at WrestleMania is not very good either, by the way. And it's weird that he's considered Mr. WrestleMania. He just has a lot of moments. But yeah, I think to me, Charlotte is the easy answer. I want to say Becky because of the amount of moments and wins that she has at the event. But Charlotte also has way more wins, the most of any women's superstar.
That's fair. And I mean, I even said that I considered Charlotte, but I think like Shawn, it's not about the wins. It's about the quality match, the memorable matches you have, the memorable moments. It's about that WrestleMania moment. As cheesy as that saying is, that's what it all comes down to. And I think just when it comes down to the biggest woman WrestleMania moments, I think Becky has it. But I do think Bianca that you mentioned, that's actually a name I thought of too, but I'm like, it's still young, but I think in a couple of years, I mean, you said it's something worth monitoring. So I think in a couple of years, I'd probably change my answer there, especially if she, or maybe in like 10 years, maybe they decide, yo, let's give you a streak. Who knows?
I think it would fit her character very well. I think it's very easy to write in. Once she gets to like 5, I feel like is when you acknowledge it. And I think, Juice, this will lead pretty well also into our final topic of the night. As we approach WrestleMania season, we also have some AEW pay-per-views have gone by us at this point, and they don't really have anything between now and WrestleMania coming up outside of some TV specials, sure. But one thing AEW does is they have their big 4. And they're pretty consistent. And you even said it in the show notes too. They're consistent and solid, but none of them really stand apart from the others, which is important. And I would agree with that. So you, Juice, are posing the question, do we think that AEW and Tony Khan need to create this WrestleMania type? I mean, and you even said it too with these other good examples of Wrestle Kingdom and Bound for Glory, both New Japan and Impact Wrestling respectively. Do they need that? Do they need this big show? And to me, I feel like they do, but they should make it one of their big 4. Like, you and I have talked about this before, about which of AEW's big 4 we consider their biggest. I think that they just need to full send on something. Like, to me, Double or Nothing seems like a really good, big thing because of the amount of moments that we've already seen at Double or Nothings. Like, I feel like it's very easy to sell that that's their big show. But I mean, even WCW had it. I mean, other promotions do it too. Like you and I are getting ready to go to see Cold Fury for Chaotic Wrestling. Cold Fury is typically one of their biggest shows. And that just goes to show that like big marquee shows sell. And I feel like AEW has the star power. They have the caliber. They have everything that they need to get this ready. The thing that I think also would set it apart is if it's a stadium show. I think AEW can pack a stadium, probably not as well as WWE, just because WWE has a lot more mainstream, like casual fans than AEW does at this current moment. But if they were able to get a bigger venue, a cool stadium, even if it's like a college football stadium, like one that's not very big, but still gives you that aura of being in the stadium. You know, it's this big momentous event that needs to be on this absolute grand stage.
It's not just one thing they can do to make one of their staple pay-per-views big. It's a few things. And I agree with you that it needs to be one of the 4 pay-per-views they already have established. Originally, I thought Double or Nothing would be a good idea, but I think you can still make that important. But just, keep it. They're trying to keep it in Vegas, which I think is a good idea to make it feel more authentic. But I think you gotta dive into a theme, I think, too. I think Double or Nothing definitely has a theme, and I think they don't really fully dive into it like they should. I mean, you're in Vegas, called Double or Nothing. You used to have a casino battle royal match and everyone, which they started to taper away from last year. They didn't have it on the pay-per-view. I think that's one thing. Have that set match that's on everyone, and you can't deviate from it. I didn't like that they moved the Face of Revolution match off Revolution. I get why, because they had an hour-long Iron Man match and they cut time. But there were other I really liked Revolution, but there were other matches they could have cut and put that. And the ladder match wasn't long anyways. It was not long. It's a very short TV match. So they could have put it on and replaced one of the other matches. And Yeah, and try to shorten the card that way too, because on a Sunday night they really shouldn't be having 4-hour pay-per-views. It's kind of silly to me that they do. But yeah, going back to the original question, things to make it more important. I think a big venue, like you said, that's huge. Diving into the theme, another huge, but also just marketing. We see what they do with WrestleMania. Marketing starts in like a year in advance, and then they like really lay it on in like September, like before Survivor Series. They really start to do the talk, and then they do road the WrestleMania for 3 months. I think you got to do something like that with AEW with one of their pay-per-views, which I think the one that would be that should be their marquee one is All Out. I think All Out always feels important to me. And then it all started with All In. That's what really got AEW off, kickstarted the AEW movement and getting Cody and the Young Bucks to really work with Tony Khan. And All Out is a branch off of that name. So I think All Out would be the perfect fit, I think. And I think also just back to the marketing aspect, we see WWE, it's not just advertisements, it's this type of advertisements they do. Things that really catch your attention, like what they're doing this year and what they did with WrestleMania 21. Because they're both in Hollywood, they're doing Hollywood themed advertisement, these movie parodies. And it's brilliant. It captures my attention. I want to talk about them right away. They're fun. They're interesting. I think AEW's got to do more marketing like that. I think their advertising is pretty basic, but if you do these creative advertisements for these big pay-per-views, then it really captures your attention. And also market what's at the event besides wrestling. Like WWE does when they have a music, like then they announce who's doing the national anthem. I think AEW could do that because they have plenty of people that do like the theme songs for special entrances on their pay-per-views. They do that too, just like WWE, but they don't really announce it. Like when Ruby Soho had Rancid, the singer of Rancid, sing it, that wasn't advertised, which is stupid to me. That was not advertised. I was at the show and I was like, oh, I wish I kind of knew this going into it. I'm just like, this is cool. I wish they like said it. Or if they did, they probably said it for like a 30 seconds and never went back to it. So like advertise in so many different ways, really lay it in that All Out's coming. This so many things you can look forward to. Talk about the fan expo that they have. Talk about even more, like show pictures and images, do like little segments on it. And I don't want you like rip off the build the WrestleMania. I don't need you pointing at the All Out sign and stuff like that, because that's not AEW. That's just trying to be WWE. But there are ways to do it without copying them. I still think, you're not, by having a marquee pay-per-view, you're not copying WWE. You're not breaking away from what you are. Because like you said, like New Japan does it, Impact does it, Ring of Honor did it, still does it. In indie companies, you just said we're going to Cold Fury tomorrow. That's it. That's a local indie company that has a huge marquee show. FSW, which I used to love to go to, and they have Mecca. They actually have like 2 big shows a year, but Mecca is the Mecca. So yeah, I think it's something that I do, and it's definitely necessary. I think it will make pay-per-views stand apart and get people more excited for it. Because I know Revolution was good, but I feel like a lot of what you saw online is like people just like AEW pay-per-view is going to be great, but the hype, even from the AEW diehards, I don't think the hype was really there as much as a major pay-per-view for WWE from like WWE fans. Like you see how they're excited for WrestleMania, but the AEW fans are like, oh, I'm excited. It'll be good matches, but they're not like, oh, it's All Out. Oh, it's the Revolution. Let's go. In the same way that you're like, it's Royal Rumble time. stuff like that. You gotta create the hype. That's a huge part of wrestling. It's about the hype, man. So come on, Tony, let's get it done.
I think All Out is actually a great call. And like I said, calls back to the history. We won't talk about Brawl Out, but there's, again, so many major moments in AEW history have happened at All Out. And yeah, it's silly. It honestly is silly to me, like how you're a wrestling company and you don't have one of these big shows. But it leaves you wanting more at the end of the day as a casual wrestling fan. But I think it would help them attract the casual audience, like I said, that they don't really have. And I don't know. They're getting better. I think that they're starting to be on an upswing, especially with the AEW world title picture right now, having 4 genuine homegrown guys being in the title picture in a match that's going to be really fucking good. I'm excited for it. Genuinely very excited for it. And if you are excited about everything else going on in the world of professional wrestling, both WrestleMania, WWE, AEW, NXT, whatever it is, you can let us know on social media. And Juice, where can the people do that?
All right, you head over to Twitter and you type, put that caps lock on, type capital T, capital O, capital T, capital C, underscore, capital P, lowercase o, lowercase d. Then you head over to Instagram, type the same thing, but it's all lowercase T, O, T, C, underscore, P, O, D.
Yes, and as we come crashing down to the map on this episode of Top of the Cage, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you are listening to us on Apple or Spotify and you do not leave us a 5-star review, that means that you, specifically you, that person not leaving us that 5-star review, will not get 5-star content. And that is just a fact.
Fact.
And again, thank you all so much for tuning in. And we will catch you next time.